Did you already start? Good evening, guys. Thank you so much for, well, first of all, thank you so much for coming out to listen to us. It's been really awesome that you can come, and it's kind of inconvenient for us, so it was really great that you could make time in your evening to come and listen to us. So here, I'm going to be talking about, like Jordan mentioned, the flip side of whether or not elementary schools should keep fried foods and soft drinks in the school system. And so I've titled my speech is "The Food a Really Problem?" So we'll answer the question you can probably already answer. So, like I said, the purpose of my speech is to suggest that taking foods that are deemed unhealthy out of the school system is not the solution to stopping childhood obesity and diabetes and all these different disease processes that come along with obesity and overeating. Therefore, we should keep fast foods, or fried foods, and soft drinks as options in elementary schools in order to teach children about choice. So that's going to be the crux of my argument. We have to teach children about how to make right choices when they're going to eat, especially at school in lunchroom. So I have a poll everywhere for you guys. Have you all done this before? Yes, I know some of you have, but you got to pull out your cell phone. And I would like you to guess the prevalence of childhood obesity in the U.S. And so you are going to text like the number into that 22333. That's like the number you're going to text, and then you're going to put 2233560 in your actual text message, and then just guess the number. It's between 10 and 50. What was the question? Guess the prevalence of childhood obesity in the U.S.
In your message, text 223.
What?
Got one answer. Good guess, guys. Oh, okay.
So I text that number. You said between 10 and 50.
10 and 50, yes.
Do I text the number right about the big turn?
Yes, there were none.
Oh, no,
Yes. I do not. Has everyone who's guessed? Okay. Have you all sent in an answer that you think it is? Oh. Oh. Yes. All right, so I'm gonna. Oh. All right, so we have 1, 35, 30, 35, 28, 16, and 45. So I'm actually doing the promise for you. Got the closest. It is 17%. So, wow. Hey, dude, do you want Reese's or Kit Kat or Reese's? Okay, you can get two. Katie. Okay, so going back to what I've been talking about, we see that there's a problem. It's 17% of children that are obese in the United States, and that has just increased. The Eddings has done a study, and that's where that 17% came from. And obesity, like I was saying, can lead to a lot of different disease processes. So HTN is hypertension, which is high blood pressure. And that can happen because of the fat buildup that you get, which causes more pressure in the arteries, so your heart has to pump harder, and there's a strain on your heart. So that's the hypertension. And then there's type 2 diabetes, which is acquired diabetes. And that happens when you have so much sugar, so much glucose in your system. Your pancreas makes this hormone called insulin, which helps for the uptake of the glucose. And when you have too much glucose, your insulin isn't able to keep up with all the sugar that's going into your body. And so that's why they have to take extra insulin and whatnot. And then lastly, you have coronary artery disease, that's more on the fried food side, because it's a buildup of fatty plaque that you get. are just to say that we see that there is a problem. So naturally we would say, okay, there's a problem, so what are we going to do? We're going to take away all these unhealthy foods from our kids so that they can't have them. But we see that if we restrict unhealthy foods, kids won't be able to access it, and then that would be the problem solved. But the problem actually lies in the fact that kids choose the unhealthy options in their schools. It's not necessarily that the unhealthy options are there, but that they have that choice. Okay, so I have, like I said, it's proven ineffective and can lead to more harm. So there are a couple studies on choice and like strategies of control that people have done. So Dr. Scandolini, he is from the Massachusetts General Hospital, and he wrote an article about children's eating behaviors, and he talks about the practice of controlling children's diets. And he says, the practice is a strategy of control used by parents, such as pressure to eat by promoting healthy foods, usually fruits and vegetables, restriction by limiting access to sweets and fatty snacks, and the use of food as a reward. Despite the good intention of parents, these practices are associated with negative outcomes, and restriction is strongly correlated with inhibited eating behaviors. So essentially it's just saying that when you're controlling what kids eat, it's going to have negative outcomes. Then an article from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition called Feeding Practices in Child Weight writes, quote, controlling feeding hinders children's ability to self-regulate food consumption and overrides internal cues of satiety, like feeling full, thereby resulting in excessive food intake. So controlling kids' eating habits, that's not what's going to help, because later in life they're not going to be able to know how to choose to make good choices because it's been just handed to them before. And then lastly, Maya Paul and Lawrence Robinson, authors of an article on nutrition for children and teens, he wrote to parents. It's like on healthguide.org, and he writes, don't ban sweets entirely. Having a no sweets rule, and I'm saying sweets, but we can insert farm foods and soft drinks. Having a no sweets rule is an invitation for cravings and overindulging when given the chance. So we see that restriction and inhibiting and controlling kids' eating habits isn't really going to work to have them stop childhood obesity. Essentially, like it may help when they're younger and they're going to school and they're only able to eat these things, but when they get out of school, going to middle school, high school, college, there's always going to be the choice of having fried foods. So controlling isn't going to instill good habits in the children. So what I think the solution actually is learning about choice, and then it goes into education. So I have this little diagram, because first we have to educate the kids so that they can make the choice, which will lead to the prevention of childhood obesity and these other disease processes. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about choice first, because I think that's kind of the crux of the argument here, and then kind of go into the education side. So in terms of choice, question, is it more likely that you'll maintain a habit if you're forced to or if you have the choice? Like, just in general, it's just the same as it is for you and I as it is for younger kids. You're more likely to exhibit and maintain healthy behaviors because you choose to do so because you know the reason behind your choosing. So Alfie Kahn gave me a couple good quotes. He's an author and speaker. He's an expert on human behavior and education and parenting. He writes that people are likely to persist at doing constructive things, and uses the example of stopping smoking and exercising when they have some choice about the specifics, and children are no exception to these rules. He continues to explain that the way a child learns how to make decisions is by making decisions, not by following directions. So if we're just banning all these foods, unhealthy foods, which I agree that they're unhealthy, but if we are banning them from the schools, then they're not going to learn how to make decisions. And then Constance Cami, a professor of early childhood education at the University of Alabama, wrote, I wrote the whole quote up here because I thought it was good. We cannot expect children to accept ready-made values and truths all the way through school, then suddenly make choices in adulthood. Likewise, we cannot expect them to be manipulated with reward and punishment in school to have the choice, to have the courage of Martin Luther King in adulthood. So, essentially, they can learn how to make the choice, and we have to teach them about making the choice in order to allow for them to continue to make better choices about their eating habits in the future. Okay, so then we turn to the education. So we've talked about, yes, it is possible for children this young to make choices about their eating habits, but how are we going to do that? So I looked for different ways to just kind of introduce the disease processes to kids. And I'll show you a little bit of some of the stuff. And this goes for like, I mean, Tim and Annie, you're going to be new parents and you'll be dealing with all these decisions. And like for the rest of us who don't have kids. Then you can be like either talking to like nieces and nephews, younger brothers and sisters, and trying to kind of influence their habits. Garrett?
Color on the plate, like, nope, in the center, up top.
Here.
Yeah.
Oh. So then this kid, then the two little kids, they kind of go into the different signs and symptoms of diabetes and whatnot. So this is just like one of the resources I found. And then here's the other one about the effects of sugar on the body. They could show. This one's probably could be a little bit older. Like this one's, you know, really little. It's like 5 and 6, but. There.
Pretty much everyone likes the sweet, sweet taste of sugar. But now some scientists are saying sugar is toxic. Really, scientists? Couldn't you just look the other way on this one? We all know that sugar isn't the healthiest. It's not dangerous, right? Well, it turns out that it totally can be. Here's a sad statistic. For the first time in history, U.S. children are not expected to live longer than their parents. Why? A lot of it has to do with the fact that cases of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and heart disease are through the roof. There's another sad statistic. Today, 1 out of every 3 U.S. adults is obese. Not overweight, obese. 1 in 3. But what does this have to do with sugar? Sugar's been around forever, so why is it suddenly making us so sick? What changed? What changed is the dramatically increased the amount of fructose we consume. Fructose is the sweet stuff that's in sugar, and high fructose corn syrup, sugar's newer and cheaper twin. Fructose can do damage to your body in ways that we are just beginning to understand. What kind of damage? brain has a hard time recognizing leptin, so you stay hungry longer and eat more than you should.
So, essentially, this is just another one of the little resources that's talking about the effects of sugar that you can show your children. Be like, well, this is what it's going to do to your body. Don't eat it. Okay, then I also have two other things about vitamins, and the last one is a fizzy fruit, which is like this drink. It's like big soda. So it just is another healthy option that you can teach kids, and it's like kids showing kids how to make it. All right. So then the other set of education stuff that I have is from WebMD, and they give a list of things that it's just called how to make healthy eating habits. And the first one that they actually said was guide families' choices rather than dictate food, because this practice will help your children learn how to make healthy food choices. So that's the whole point of this. We want to show them how to make healthy food choices. So it says don't dictate their foods, but guide their choices. Then they have just the other longer list of suggestions. So eating slowly so that kids can get full on less. Family meals, so that you're kind of like hopping throughout, which lets you eat slower too. Involve children in the shopping and preparing so that you can show them this is what's going in your body as opposed to, let's say, soda with the fructose. And like you're showing them these videos, you're like, wow, do you see what that's doing to your body? And then you see when you're eating this apple or when you're drinking this apple juice, what that's doing to your body instead. Other things, plan for snacks, disencourage eating meals in front of the TV, drinking more water, and try to prevent using food as either punishment or reward. So, pretty much in conclusion, children are more likely to keep good habits when they see and experience them at home. So that's why it's more the education. And then it also translates into like school education, and there are so many different resources that schools can use and have been using on nutrition. Like adults, they make choices when they know the rationale behind their decisions. And so when parents are stressing, like, this is what is going into your body, and this is what like bad foods are doing to your body, and this is what good foods are doing to your body, and living it out and kind of showing them what it's doing, then they're more likely to make better decisions. So, I have one more tool over there, now that you guys got it. Okay, so, you still text the message the same number, the 22333, but then you're going to say one new thing that you've learned. So sugar keeps you from feeling full. Kids need to be shown they can choose healthy foods and not have them dictated. You die when you eat sugar. Why is that one so big? Of course, that's the one that was say big. But has everyone sent in stuff they want to send in? Yeah. Okay. So, just in conclusion, we talked about the prevalence of obesity, and then identified the problem, which isn't really the food, but it's the fact that children make these choices, and the solution is that we need to prepare children through teaching and through education